Hi, I'm Sarah Purcell from Bone Boot Camp. I was asked by a few customers to create some videos about safe movements for your spine around the home. So when we talk about safe movement for the spine, we're really thinking about keeping the natural curves of your spine intact. That means that if you had some TheraBands or some sort of vest that you could put on to hold a stick on your back, can you feel the stick on the back of your pelvis near your sacrum and on your rib cage and the back of your head? So we want to keep those 3 points of contact throughout all of these movements in the kitchen. It's somewhat challenging because we're oftentimes used to curving and curling our spine down, and that flexion of the spine is compression on the vertebra, not something we want to do anymore. In addition, you're lengthening all those ligaments in the back, and if you pick up something at that end range load, that can cause back pain. So let's see what we can do here, keeping all 3 points of contact. So I just put the door down, keeping all 4 points of contact. Let me do it again to get it and pick it up. Notice that I've done a hip hinge, and then I do a knee bend, and I reach and bring it back up. So once I've done that, I approach the dishwasher. Same thing. So I'm working on hip hinging and knee bends. Now you know why in Short and Sweet with Sarah we do a lot of that. So picking something up out of it, get close enough so that the object isn't far away from you. We hip hinge first, knee bend, pick it up, and bring it towards your body. Pretty simple, right? So it does seem like a little bit of a pain in the neck to think that with every single dish, but make it a game, play with it once or twice, then try to do it without the stick, and just the more you're conscious of it, the better you're treating your spine. So sometimes the injuries happen because of repetitive small mistakes, like flexing your spine, and not one big mistake. So even if you can reduce those small mistakes by 50%, you've done a great thing. So now let's go to the sink. Imagine that I've got a heavy pot in the sink. I'm going to open the door so that I can get just a little bit closer to the sink to put my hands in. Now, if I was picking a really heavy, like a Dutch oven out, I might need to hip hinge, lean closer, and pull that out. Much easier when I can get closer by putting one foot in. You can see that this is a very different situation and could likely lead to a bunch of curling, and now I've got 1 point of contact only. I know I'm at more risk and there's a bigger compromise that's being done to my spine. So let's move to the oven and think about that. The same exact thing. I open the oven door, and let's say that it's hot, so I don't want to be touching the top of it here. Got my 3 points of contact, and maybe I approach it from the side or maybe from the front. Either way, let's say I need to ease it down. I'm going to do that hip hinge and knee bend again. If I want to get a hot item out of the oven, I'm going to have on oven mitts, and I'm not going to reach all the way from here. This is definitely going to be flexion of the spine in a not great way, and particularly if this item is heavy, that's no bueno. So we're going to get in closer, and same thing, hip hinge. Remember, I've got my mitts on, and I can pull that out. Let's imagine that it's heavier, then we're just taking this out, bringing this as close as you can to yourself, lifting, unhinging, and placing it there. So it's all really doable, and I think it's a fun challenge to say to yourself, how much can I do in the kitchen with a stick on my back? I am sitting on a chair that is actually something we typically find in offices, in cars, and other places where the seat, as you can see, is rather sloped, and the back is sloped as well. And that is a really nice invitation to sink back into your chair and flex your spine. Not something we really want to be doing. And for people who are petite like myself, to keep my feet on the ground, I'm actually going to have to curl back even more. And now it's even more egregious that I've got a fair amount of flexion in my spine and only one point of contact on my stick. So for someone like myself who's petite, it's even more challenging, because in order to sit with my sitting bones on the ground, my feet on the ground, and all 3 points of contact, I can't really be all the way back there. Now, for many people, that might mean a pillow to create the seat of the chair getting closer to you. I've been short all my life, so I am pretty used to sitting in this manner and staying upright and being comfortable. But that takes a fair amount of core strength. And if you're not there yet, that's okay. I think it's a great way to remind yourself to get up and out of the chair and move around, and maybe try a different chair the next time, or stand at your desk, or try another option. So let's say you are here and you feel fatigued because you're using a lot of muscles that aren't used to working, and even your neck flexors are getting tired. So it's time to get out of the chair. I am going to move a little forward because the slope really doesn't feel that great to me. So the hip hinge comes into play here too. We hip hinge, we keep all 3 points of contact. We're going to push through our feet. You can even put your hands out in front and push through those heels, squeeze your bottom, and come on up. And then part of the challenge is coming back down and using your bottom as that deceleration vehicle. So it's slowing your descent, coming down, coming down, coming down, and then sitting back. So sit to stand, popular test. You can use it with your stick to really get a good handle on keeping your spine safe. I think the hardest transition is beginning to think about not slumping into your chair. I know it's so inviting, but particularly when you're working at a desk, try sitting right up on top of your sits bones. When you get tired of holding yourself up, change positions, change chairs, take a moment standing at your desk for a little while. Just mix it up. Different heights, different chairs sometimes helps. When we're thinking about picking things up, the challenge is even greater because there may be some weight in what we're picking up. It's advised that we not be moving around household items that weigh more than 20 pounds, but for those of you who are weightlifting, more than 20 pounds will probably work out okay. But let's just keep that in mind, and we'll look first at what happens when we bend over to lift something in a rather traditional way, the way we did when we were 20 and we're not thinking much, and this happens. So what's going on here with my straight legs and my curved or flexed spine is all of my ligaments are pretty much at their end range on the back of my body, and my spine is compressed. Two things that we don't want to do if we don't have the strength to manage the load. And really, we don't want to flex our spine under any kind of load. So let's address it again and think about the points of contact on the stick and approaching the object, getting close enough to it so that we can keep the object close to our body. That's one of the keys when you're lifting weight. We don't want it way out here. We don't want our arms and our shoulders doing more than they need to. So we approach the object, and we're going to do that same hip hinge that we used before. Now notice that I'm not looking directly at the object with my head like that. I'm doing it with my eyes, and you can't see my eyes. The next thing that happens is when I grab this weight, first I want to set my shoulder. So in weightlifting, it's called packing your shoulder. I sometimes talk about armpits of power. Either way, I drag the object closer to me. When my shoulder is really steady and firm, I'm now going to use my exhale and my core strengthening that I learned in Short and Sweet with Sarah and hinge back up. So that's actually a one-arm deadlift. That's why weightlifting is so great. let's turn and look at something that's slightly lower, and maybe I want to pick it up with 2 hands. Maybe I'm not going to have enough hip hinging to get down there. Let's just say that I don't have the ability to flex at my ankles and hip at the hinge to get to here. Maybe I'm only getting to here. So what's my next choice? My next choice is a little bit of a lunge. So 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. For many people, this is a much more doable choice. Oopsie. And pick it up. Now, for some people with knee issues, that's not a doable choice. And then my suggestion is that you don't try to pick that thing up that's not accessible yet. You start working on your ankle flexion and your hip flexion. When you're doing the lunge move, that takes a lot of glute and leg strength. So those are other things that you might want to work on as we start thinking about keeping our spine intact. We need to have more muscle strength to support it. And that's a great thing if you're ready to work on your muscle strength. There are a couple more lifting situations that can happen in daily life. One of them is groceries. So let's think about lifting a grocery bag, really the same thing as what we've already been doing. So I've got my 3 points of contact on my stick. I'm hip hinging. I'm reaching down. Then I'm going to treat it like a weight, because you never know, maybe this has a bunch of milk in it. So I'm going to set my arms, because maybe I'm picking it up with 2 arms, push through my heels, use my bottom, and come up. And I've also pulled the item closer to my body. What if, though, this was a suitcase and we are all back to traveling again and you're at TSA? So let's try that. So same thing, I'm going to keep it a little bit to the side of my body, imagining that the conveyor belt is right there. So hip hinging down. Now I'm going to do what I need to do so my arm is really fully extended. I'm going to pack my shoulder or use my armpits of power, use my heels to bottom, and unhinge and come on up. Now I have to have some bicep strength too to bring this up without a lot of irritation in my shoulder. You may bring it up high enough that you get your second hand on it and you put it on the conveyor belt. If you're too far away from the conveyor belt, step closer, because the further out your weight goes from your body, the more difficult it is, the more you need your core strength and your arm strength. So now it's time to brush the teeth. That can lead to spinal compression once again. And it's really not that one dose of spinal compression with a little toothbrush in your hand is going to crush a vertebra. It's the fact that you do it over and over and over again, and over time there will eventually be a straw that broke the camel's back. So let's not do that. Let's get close to the sink, and we're going to use our hip hinge and a knee bend and trying to keep the head on the stick as much as we can. So the first thing that I'm going to do is hip hinge and get my mouth over the sink without doing that. Then I'm going to bend my knees, let them come forward more, and my knees don't touch the cabinet, so I think I need to stand just a little bit closer. So I move in just a little bit closer, hip hinge again, bend my knees, and brush my teeth. Notice that I'm putting a hand on the counter. Totally okay. That allows me, if I don't have the strength in my bottom to be here, I can do it by holding on, and that helps me support my glutes so that I do have the strength.